Hey, I'm back with part 2 of the 8th house video that I posted a few days or weeks ago, and I know you guys are just dying to learn more about the 8th house, as well as just the 8th house, just how it pertains to your own birth chart. And so that's what my part 2 is going to be all about. So make sure you stay tuned to find out what it means to have certain planets in your 8th house, as well as what it means to have certain signs on your 8th house cusp. Those are both really important in trying to figure out how you uncover other people's secrets, how you search for the truth, how you, or what in you yourself, in your own personality, are you afraid of? What is in the dark? I like to look at the 8th house as sort of like this scary closet that you kind of just push all your fears, all of your shames into, and you kind of don't really want to look at it. Or face it. It's hard for you to face it because it's the dark side of you, and it's usually the side of you that doesn't really come out until you're in a very close and tight bonded intimate partnership with another person. And unfortunately your partner is the one who has to bear the brunt of facing your issues for you, and really we shouldn't let them do that or assign that baggage over to them. But sometimes that is the nature of the 8th house. In a way, it is sort of linked to or connected to the 7th, just because it kind of is produced from forming one-on-one relationships, just kind of like what comes out of it. Beginning with the sun in the 8th house, what does it mean to have your sun in the 8th house? You may not exactly be comfortable with being in the spotlight. The sun is all about shedding light on things, right? And you're kind of taking that essence of your personality, just the core essence of your personality and who you are and how you identify yourself, and just placing it in the 8th house, into the darkness of the 8th house. And you can look at this as just a way of hiding the identity, hiding from the spotlight, or you could also see it as being able to shine a light in the dark. And you cannot really recognize or see sunlight or acknowledge that it's there until you go into the dark. Some might say that it's sort of a difficult place to have the sun, but you can also see it as just a good place to have your sun, because it's the dark, and if you light up that area, it's a lot easier to face the things of that area and to face the issues that are found within the 8th house. Along with this, you might also be good at or interested in the occult, in occult practices, in astrology, in learning about the dead, learning about history or like haunted history. You're also into like solving mysteries and just also handling other people's lives, and you probably have a lot of self-control because the sun is all about the self, and you are able to have a good control over what you share about yourself with other people. But you yourself are really interested in learning about other people's lives. With the moon in the 8th house, you have a really deep emotional need to understand other people. If you are not connected with people in a very deep way, or you have very like surface level connections, I doubt that you do, because you do work hard to really get them to a deeper level. You will not be satisfied with those connections, and it's hard for you to feel emotionally taken care of if your partner does not share with you everything. You need to know everything. You need to know absolutely all of the truths about your partner, even the ugly side of them. You just need to know, and it's just a huge part of what makes you feel comfortable or safe enough to open up to them as well. You probably have very extreme moods and reactions to things, very volatile or explosive moods and reactions to things, and your feelings are just very extreme. Because the 8th house is such an extreme house, you do not take your emotions lightly, and you do not have very lighthearted or lukewarm moods or emotions. you probably also have a very intense and private emotional life. You're not somebody who just kind of lets out all their emotions for the entire world to see. You're just not like that at all. It's something you really keep private, and because they're so important to you and because you take them really seriously, you tend to hide your emotions. You might tend to repress them, or you might also be just really scared of them because of how intense and extreme they can be, and so you don't just readily share that with everybody. With Mercury in the 8th house, you are very curious about death and the occult and spiritual matters and just the darker side of life, the darker side of people, and how they think. You want to know their motives all the time, and you tend to make a really good detective as well as a psychiatrist because you're so interested in that. You have a natural mind that just kind of goes in that area, goes toward that area of just learning about people and learning about the truth, and not really settling for what you can just see on the surface, because in your mind you know for sure that there is more to that. There is more to what people are saying, and you're always just going to be reading between the lines and trying to look deeper into the truth of what do they really mean. I know she didn't just say that, like, I know she wants something from me, or I know that they have a hidden motive, and so you're just very curious about that, and you are very curious about other people's secrets. You just want to know everything about them, and you might be the type to Facebook stalk or like social media stalk the person that you're interested in. You're just very natural at that, at just researching, doing like really deep, hardcore, investigative research. You would also probably have obsessive thinking too, so that can go the very opposite way. Again, we're dealing with extremes with the 8th house. It's never nothing here is ever taken casually. You can have very dark thoughts, and your thoughts can really jump to conclusions that don't necessarily give other people the benefit of the doubt. What does it mean to have your Venus in the 8th house? You find a lot of pleasure in sharing, and you're very charming in order to get people to open up to you and to really share their secrets with you. People cannot help but be drawn to you magnetically and just end up spilling all their secrets to you and just telling the truth. And it's not something that you really have to force them to do. It's just very natural for you to just, have like a casual conversation and just smile at them and, ask about their day and just really turn the charm on. But you don't have to necessarily do this intentionally. It just kind of happens, and then they reveal themselves to you, and it's just a really powerful and intense placement for Venus, because Venus is all about like the social charms and social, like the surface level social skills and social settings. But if you place it in the 8th house, it's all of a sudden it's just very deep and it's very intense, and all of a sudden your conversations and your social pleasantries all of a sudden turn very deep and intense, and conversations are just no longer simple conversations. You also probably really love dark types of media, and you enjoy making the dark beautiful. You see beauty in the darkness, and beauty in the dark side of life, and just what people are scared of, what people don't really want to look at, and the sides of people that they don't really want to look at or face. You see it and you look for it, and you see beauty in it, and you don't see it as something to be feared or looked down upon. You probably really love scary movies, scary books, and like really sort of dark or maybe even like gothic home decor, or that type of style. You might even wear a lot of black. With Mars in the 8th house, you might be afraid of getting angry or becoming angry, or really sort of outwardly asserting yourself. That's not to say that you don't have a very powerful anger or powerful motivations, because you definitely do. Being in the 8th house, it's just not something that other people really detect or can really pick up on right when they first meet you. You don't always get your anger out in the open, or you don't always share your motives right away with other people. You are more likely to kind of move sideways or behind people's backs in order to get what you want. You may have a repressed anger or sexuality sometimes, and it can turn into extremes for sure, because it's so repressed, and because it is a side of you that you might be very fearful of, and so it doesn't always get expressed properly or healthily. And so because of that, it just turns into extremes, and it turns into an extreme sexuality or an extreme anger. And so because it's just so pent up inside of you, and you tend to play a very active role in trying to get the truth out of people. You tend to play a really active role in trying to understand people and trying to understand their motives, trying to get to the bottom of things and really seek out the truth. With Jupiter in the 8th house, you are psychically adept and you're really good at reading people. Along with many of the other 8th house placements, Jupiter here is especially good at learning about people and sort of receiving wisdom through your partnerships and through really forming intimate and close bonds with your partner. You can expect good things to come out of that, and things that really benefit you. You can have big financial gains through joining forces with other people, and just earn a lot of insight and wisdom from learning their secrets. And you are a person who probably really enjoys and thrives in and grows when you work with other people, or when you have a very close partnership with them. You're probably someone who just really easily forms close bonds with other people. It's very natural for you to get them on your side, to sort of maybe even sometimes have control over them. It's very easy for you to have that and gain that upper hand with them. And for you, really having an intimate partnership or just a really close bond with another person is just really something that's really enjoyable for you, and because it comes so natural to you. It's not really something you have to work very hard in cultivating, because people just naturally give themselves to you and share themselves with you and probably share wisdom, and so you gain that knowledge from them. Your sexual life is probably something that really brings in a lot of blessings for you, brings in just a lot of abundance and just true joy for you. With Saturn in the 8th house, you might have a hard time sharing yourself with other people. Where Jupiter thrives in the 8th house and brings joy and abundance and optimism, with Saturn here, you take this area of your life really seriously, but it's not something that comes natural for you. You expect the hard work that has to come with really joining with other people and having shared resources with them. You take that really seriously, and you take your really close bonded partnerships very seriously. You probably act as a responsible partner and the one that is very responsible with what you both share, such as money. And like if you were to share money with other people, or they were to share it with you, you really know how to use it wisely and just, be the responsible one with it. You have really strong fears of vulnerability and just really sharing of yourself again, because intimacy is not really something that you take lightly at all. It might be something that is just very difficult for you to handle and for you to really open up to and find true pleasure or joy in. Another thing is that people might be afraid of sharing themselves with you because you do take it very seriously, and they're going to pick up on that. And they might also pick up on the fact that it's hard for you to really open up to them and share with them. It might be intimidating for them. With Uranus in the 8th house, you need independence in your closest bonds. You need to feel free in order to really share yourself with somebody. Your intimate life and your really closest partnerships and relationships with other people can have really extreme ups and downs, and just have a very random, unpredictable quality about them. Your closest relationships may not always be necessarily that deep, because Uranus is just very up and down, just very unpredictable, and you don't always know what you're going to get with Uranus. And placed in the 8th house, you may have a lot of surprises or experience a lot of surprises when you join forces with another person and they share themselves with you, it's like you're just constantly being surprised in that area and with whatever they bring to you. Or on the other hand, you might be somebody who brings a lot of revolution and just bright new inventive ideas and creativity to your partnerships, and that's what you end up sharing with another person. You probably have a very innovative and just striking sexual nature because of what you can bring to that intimate partnership and what you have that you can offer to share with them. It's just a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity, and just trying new things. With Neptune in the 8th house, you have a way of just kind of dissolving yourself with other people. It's sort of like your ego kind of dissolves or disappears whenever you enter a really close, intimate relationship with another person. You might have a hard time realizing or marking the boundaries where others end and where you begin, because Neptune is all about like self-sacrifice and compassion and just sort of acting as a martyr. There can be some deception through shared resources where other people may be taking more than they're giving back to you, and sometimes you end up with a shorter end of the stick because of that. And it can also indicate being cheated out of what you are sharing with the other person. Neptune is also about illusions and delusions, and you might not necessarily see your shared resources very clearly, and you may overestimate what you really have or what you're really sharing with another person, because you tend to idealize that area and not really see it very clearly. There's just a whole lot of giving in this placement where you just feel the need to just constantly be giving, and you can be somebody who really just knows about unconditional love and just shares that unconditional love with other people, and they may not necessarily deserve it. Okay, with Pluto in the 8th house, you have a love and hate relationship with sex and with sharing with other people. You know, this area is just very extreme for you. You either really are really attached to sharing with other people and like can't get enough of it, or you might be very fearful of it. You might sort of abandon it and cut it out completely out of your life. You know, there's no in between with Pluto or the 8th house, and you know, you put those two things together and it's just makes itself into a really extreme handling of that area. You tend to either extremely overshare with other people, or you don't share at all and you're just extremely private. You know, so that's one way that it can play out with the extremes with this house. Either way that you do choose to handle your intimate relationships, it tends to come with a lot of regret. And so, you know, either when you do share yourself with other people, you tend to regret it, and then when you are really private about yourself, you tend to regret that too. It's hard for you to feel like you've won either way. It feels like a lose-lose situation no matter how you deal with it. But it can just be your perception. It can just be like your own relationship with your own fears and your own dark side, and it's really hard for you to face that and really let yourself be vulnerable. And you might have intimacy issues. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. You might have intimacy issues and just have a fear of being really vulnerable with other people and really being seen truly, fully, completely. Your dark side is not something that you yourself want to face or share with other people necessarily. You may have a really impulsive desire to just control other people and control the outcome and control your relationships, just always have the upper hand. And again, because of that fear of being vulnerable and letting yourself be emotionally vulnerable with other people, and you know, it tends to stem from that fear of intimacy. And so that's sort of where that need to control every situation you're in can come from. Okay, it's not necessarily your fault, because just a lot of it comes from fear, and the extreme behavior in this area can also be from that fear too. With Chiron in the 8th house, there can be a lot of setbacks and wounding through giving of yourself, and you are usually hurt when you end up sharing with other people. You end up being hurt. This is a very, very sensitive area for you. Having to keep your wounds hidden and have that really be part of your secrets, and you know, the things that you just shove in the closet so you don't have to face it. When other people enter your life and become intimate with you and just sort of see everything about you, they see that, and it's sort of a place that is very sensitive for you, and but that's sort of where all of it comes out. That's sort of where like all of your baggage comes out, and you tend to really show that vulnerable side of you when people get that close to you. With this placement, you could really easily be a therapist because you are helping others through trauma, and the 8th house is what you are receiving from other people, and so you might be on the receiving end of other people's vulnerabilities and seeing their wounds and their weaknesses. And wherever Chiron is placed is not only the area where you yourself have been hurt in the past, but it's also the area where you have a lot of potential to heal other people and to help them and to really see their own potential in that area. So with Chiron here, you were on the receiving end of seeing other people's vulnerabilities, but you also know how to help them because you yourself are somebody who hides those wounds, and you yourself are not really always comfortable with facing them or like tending to them, taking care of them, and really learning from your past mistakes. And so it kind of gets buried in the 8th house, but you also have so much potential to help others heal, and when they can face that side of themselves too, when they themselves can face their own 8th house and face its issues. With the North Node in the 8th house, you might have to learn in this life how to really open up and share with others. In this life, you tend to really focus on just what is tangible, like what is physical right in front of you, and you see that as your assets, and that's something that you're very natural at handling. You're natural at handling your own resources, but what happens when you join forces with other people and now you have to share with them, and now they have to share with you? You've entered this life with the purpose, the life purpose of just learning to have that back and forth relationship with other people and seeing what you can bring to them and what they can bring back to you. Now that I say that out loud, I am sort of realizing that it's sort of a karmic placement to have your North Node here, because in this life you are seeing what is coming back to you, and you're really, you know, other things in your 8th house as well as like the sign of your North Node and your 8th house is going to show even further like what is your karma and what are you having to face in this life that is coming back to you. Because now you're realizing you're seeing what is happening, what will happen, or what is going to happen if you bring your own resources to your relationships. What happens when you share that part of yourself? Your mission and your purpose in this life is to just go deeper, you know, look deeper into the truth of things. And it's not really an area that you're comfortable with, because for you, seeing is believing, and, you know, concrete details and concrete evidence is what you believe in, right? You don't necessarily like look deeper into the truth or try to understand things deeper than what they appear as. With Lilith in the 8th house, I wanted to cover Lilith, just touch on Lilith for a bit, just because it sort of has similar themes as Pluto in the 8th house. It's not exactly the same, but they sort of go hand in hand with just having to face, you know, your dark side, and like it's sort of the area or the part of you that is sort of scary when you don't tame it, or when you try to tame it, it becomes unruly because you're not allowing it true freedom and independence and to just be authentic. And Lilith is all about your authentic self and, you know, you without shame, and the side of you that just needs to be allowed free expression, you know, without any rules, without anything from society trying to tame it or control it. So with Lilith in the 8th house, you can be truly scary and psychologically destructive when you are really at your worst, right? So when you do enter intimate and really close partnerships with other people, they can bear the brunt of that and really see your Lilith side come out, where you are just not afraid of showing the scary side of you. And it's hard to describe this without really looking at the sign of your Lilith, because that's just going to show even further like what it is that you do tend to hide from other people, and what you at your worst, basically. You tend to be scared of this side of you, and so it is something that you do repress and sort of like push into your 8th house, into the darkness. And so it comes out in your relationships, and it comes out when you are trying to be vulnerable. I'm not sure if Lilith necessarily does well in the 8th house, just because, you know, it's further repressed. You know, you're not allowing it freedom to be itself, because you're not really allowing it to be free enough to express itself naturally. You're not allowing it to breathe. You're just sort of like pushing it down and not really accepting it. You're not accepting it. When you don't accept it, it lashes out and it turns extreme. With this placement, you might also have the tendency to, or have the potential, you don't necessarily have to be this way just because it's in your birth chart, but you might have the potential to take advantage of others, either sexually or financially. Just try to have that control over them, no matter what it is. So now, moving on from planets in the 8th house, we're going to talk about what each sign, how each sign expresses itself on the cusp of your 8th house, because that's also going to play a huge role in how you are experiencing your 8th house. Okay, so starting with Aries, you can be really aggressive with learning other people's truth and their secrets, and just really getting to the bottom of things. You want things straightforward, and with the 8th house, you are not going to get anything straightforward, but if you have Aries here, you're going to get to it. You're going to really pursue the truth aggressively, and you might also be the leader in the bedroom, or with initiating sharing resources. You might be the first person to ask if you can share with another person, or if they can offer something to you. With Taurus in the 8th house, you are good at attracting and coaxing the truth out of people. You might be very stubborn with trying to pursue the truth. You might bulldoze other people into getting the truth. And in intimate settings, you are also a person who seduces. You don't necessarily go about it aggressively or overtly or passionately as like an Aries would, but with Taurus, you have a seductive quality, and you are somebody who probably really indulges in their dark side and in intimacy, and with just like seeking pleasures. With Gemini and the 8th house, you share through your mind and through an intellectual stimulation. You, as well as like expressing your opinions with your partner, that to you is a form of currency, and that to you is valuable. What you see as valuable in your relationships and what you want to gain from other people is their opinion and is their thoughts. You know, what is that? Everything that you can gain intellectually from them, you want that, and you want that mental connection with them. You're into forming close bonds through the mind, as well as, and you might have split sides when handling certain information. With handling certain, you know, private, sensitive information, you might have a split sides to you that handle it differently depending on the situation, depending on the person. With Cancer on the 8th house, you're very caring and protective towards your partner's secrets and the shared resources that you have. You approach the shared resources sort of in a sideways way. You're not always straightforward with how you're handling it, and you sort of approach seeking the truth in a sideways manner. You can also be very shy about expressing your darker side, and just sort of really hesitant about sharing that side of yourself and really being vulnerable, because it's a side of you that you really strongly and fiercely protect. With Leo in the 8th house, you have a very playful style of intimacy, and you kind of see secrets and other people's resources and what you guys share together as not that serious. You know, it's not something that should be hidden, and You are probably somebody who's very proud of your dark side, and whatever planets you might have in your 8th house, if you do have planets in your 8th house and you have a Leo 8th house, you are not necessarily somebody who shies away from it. Like, it is something that you don't naturally express outwardly to other people or readily to other people, but when it comes to it, you're kind of proud of it, and you don't really take that side of you super seriously. With a Virgo on the 8th house, you tend to really analyze your information and the resources you get from other people. You're good at looking for results or just producing results from that, from what you share together. Really taking stock of what you share with a partner and what they share with you, and handling it really well. You're very strategic in that way, and you're also strategic in getting the truth. So nothing, you know, if you want to find out more information about something or somebody, you don't really stop until you really get to the bottom of it. And so that makes you a really good researcher, somebody who knows their facts and knows how to get the facts. With Libra on the 8th house, you receive information through equal give and take with your partner. You do not push, you do not prod, you do not aggressively pursue the truth or what you're trying to get out of them. You're just very charming about it and just very casual and blasé about it until you do get it. And you have a very cooperative style of intimacy. Very cooperative and fair and compromising. You don't come across as somebody who is really necessarily trying to control other people or control their resources. You also dress up the truth a lot to not make it so hard to face. You see the darkness and you just want to dress it up. You want to put like lipstick on the skeleton. With Scorpio on the 8th house, you hold onto your secrets really tightly, really strongly and passionately, and you tend to be really also controlling of other people's resources, and whatever it is that you share with them, you tend to have the upper hand of it very quickly and probably secretively without them really even being aware of it. With Sagittarius on the 8th house, you are not afraid to face the truth. You are very straightforward in pursuing the truth, and your secrets are out in the open from yourself and with others. Your secrets are not really secrets. You're just a straight shooter. You're a straight shooter with the truth and with your motives. And when you want to get the truth out of somebody or figure something out, you go straight for it, and you don't really try to hide the fact that you're looking for that. With Capricorn in the 8th house, you only bring forth the best. You only bring forth the best of yourself, and you only share what makes you look good. So you can be very strategic and careful with whatever it is that you're revealing about yourself with your partner and whatever you're sharing with them. You also make sure that whatever it is that you're sharing with them, whether that be finances or material, physical things or intimacy, you only bring forth the best and make sure that it's like top-notch, top quality. In these relationships where you are very close with another person and you work very closely together, you also tend to have the upper hand and be the deciding factor, like the person who tends to make most of the decisions. With Aquarius on the 8th house, you are never really shocked by the truth, to be honest. To be completely honest, you look for the truth, and when you find it, you're not really shocked by it. You're not surprised, and the secrets that you share with other people are truly original, and you tend to be the one that shocks other people whenever you share that side of yourself. Since it's your secrets and your kind of dark side that is the one that is original in the partnership, that tends to be what shocks other people when they come into contact with you, rather than the other way around, because your own closet of skeletons is not really a surprise for you. So it's like anything that other people have to throw at you or share with you, like their dark side, isn't really dark for you. It's, it's normal. With Pisces on the 8th house, you can be too giving in your intimacy or in your sharing with other people. You can have the potential to give much more than you take, and you also might be sort of impressionable or gullible in whatever whatever your partner is sharing with you, you will need to be a lot more careful, a lot more discriminatory with who you share yourself with, as well as what kind of information you're sharing with other people as well. You are likely to get the lower hand in your relationships if you do have to share with other people. So because of that, you do have to be careful with who you're talking to and who you're really forming that close bond with. What happens if you have your chart ruler in the 8th house? If you're unaware of what the chart ruler is, the chart ruler is the planet that rules over your ascendant. That is going to be your chart ruler. Okay, so the chart ruler is sort of like the key. If your first house, your ascendant, is a doorway and you're trying to open the door, the chart ruler is the key that opens that door. So what happens if that key, that chart ruler, is locked away in the 8th house? You may find meaning and purpose in life through 8th house themes. That is, through learning about death and secrets and sex and taboo and the occult. And you may resonate a lot with 8th house themes and really just find yourself through those things whenever you explore those themes. You might also be interested in learning about other people's resources and learning about intimacy and just like the darker themes in life, the darker side of yourself, because that's where you are going to find yourself and find a way to really allow yourself to be who you are, is when you can face that dark side. You sort of have like this hidden personality or way of expressing yourself, and it's not super overt or very plain and simple. Your self-expression is just something that's sort of hidden away from other people and possibly even yourself. You can feel disconnected from or fearful of being yourself and really fully showing your true intentions. It can be hard for you to face how you truly see yourself. And if you see yourself one way, it's not always something that you really want to admit to or be proud of, and so it's kind of hidden away in your 8th house. So facing your 8th house issues and really looking at it openly and honestly is going to help you, allow you to really be yourself and not be afraid of showing your true self to other people. And the first impression that other people kind of get from you, if you have your chart ruler in the 8th house, is someone that is mysterious, probably somebody who doesn't trust easily, and you are just constantly feeling like you have to reinvent yourself. It's all about self-transformation and, you know, killing off a part of yourself in order for something new and better to take its place. That's kind of badass of having your chart ruler in the 8th house. You may have extreme periods of just extreme love and hate with yourself. Self-transformation and reinventing of yourself is what can result from having that sort of seesaw effect between love and hate with yourself. So that's going to be the end of my 8th house video, the end of part 2. I hope you have learned something from it. If you have and found this video informative, please go ahead and leave a like. That would help me a lot in seeing what you guys are interested in, and I know that the 8th house is a really hot topic in the astrology community and everybody wants to learn about it, learn as much as they can about the 8th house because it's so mysterious, and for all the reasons that I've listed in my first video on the 8th house. If you are new to astrology and you just want to learn more, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel, because I want to make videos that not just inform but present information that is easier to understand and is a lot more accessible. And if that's something that you're looking for too, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, because I will be posting every Wednesday and Sunday. I have so much more astrology content coming your way, and I'm really excited to share it with you. So if you could turn on notifications and subscribe so that you can be informed whenever I do post, that would mean a lot. And I'm just trying to, for now, get to 500 subscribers and still a really small growing channel. So if you could show your support in any way, that would be awesome, and I'd really appreciate that. But thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you again soon. My foot is asleep. My entire leg is asleep, actually. I've been sitting here for like an hour. But anyway,